Master discussion, comparative analysis of electricity consumption at home through a theoretical perspective. 현웅씨, Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering, The Graduate School 성균관 University. Comparative analysis of electricity consumption at home through a theoretical perspective. 현웅씨, Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering, The Graduate School 성균관 University. Abstract. Title of abstract. Machine learning is a modern field that has emerged as a new tool for data analytics in a distributed computing environment. There are several aspects at which machine learning has improved the processing capacity along with the effectiveness of analysis. In this paper, the electrical usage of a home is analyzed through a k-means clustering algorithm for obtaining the optimal home usage electricity data points. The Davis-Borden index and series score find the detailed optimal number of clusters in the k-means algorithm and present the application scenario of the machine learning clustering analysis. Machine learning is a state-of-the-art sub-project of artificial intelligence that is being evolved for finding large-scale intelligent analytics in the distributed computing environment. In this paper, we perform comparative analytics on two dataset collected for the electrical usage of home based on the k-means clustering algorithm using comparison to series score with the ratio A/1 dataset. The performance evaluation shows that the comparison index is similar in the number of series score even if datasets are smaller than before. Machine learning, k-means clustering, big data analytics has simplified the complexity of large-scale dataset processing in a parallel distributed environment. Chapter 1 Introduction. Machine learning is an analyzing mechanism that fetches and identifies the matching patterns from existing datasets for newer result formations. This paper discusses comparative analytics related to unsupervised learning algorithms, at which we compare the k-means clustering result with the ratio of half dataset to series score result. We performed analysis and came to the conclusion that Davis-Borden index is now working smoothly in the scikit-learn library. So perform a check analysis for Kalinske-Arab's index and series score along with the Davis-Borden index and compared results to each of them so to learn that when we reduce the dataset to a mentioned proportion, the resultant dataset shows half score than the traditional dataset score. Chapter 2 Overview and Motivation. In real life, households' power consumptions, diverse analytics, and electrical transformer. Transmission power measurement period can estimate it, and each data using electrical consumption, it can be used for progressive taxation, regional-to-regional demand, forecasting, maintenance of power plant and facilities. In the gas company or car, company can estimate about the consumption for the via k-means algorithm and also can estimate via k-means algorithms and also estimate about the gas consumption rate to via k-means clustering and index. Paper 1 Contents Introduction. Machine learning is a sub-project of artificial intelligence that is used to develop algorithms and techniques for enabling the computers to learn. It is used to train the computer for various aspects such as distinguish whether emails received are spam or not, data classification and application, association rule identification, and character recognition. Machine learning includes a series of processes in which a computer looks up for similar patterns, generative or novel classification system, data analysis, and producing meaningful results. It is a kind of artificial intelligence that can be predicted based on the result. If it is supported only by analytics algorithms, machine learning is a step-by-step evolution process that leads from big data analytics to predict future actions toward making decisions on its own through past run result. The key issues for processing a successful prediction model remains to be within increasing the probability and reducing the errors, and the same set problems are resolved through enabling numerous interactive learnings. At the heart of machine learning and representation and generalization. where expression is evaluation of data and generalization is processing of future data. Unsupervised learning is a type of machine learning that is used primarily to determine how data is organized. Unsupervised learning or reinforcement learning, this method does not give a target value for input values. Autonomous learning is closely related to the density estimation of statistics. These autonomous learning can summarize and describe the main characteristics of the data. An example of autonomous learning is clustering. In this paper, we use k-means clustering algorithm to measure the optimal number of clusters based on the Kalinske average index and silver score. There is burden index and then apply it to household electricity consumption analysis. Previous work, machine learning. Machine learning is a like of mining, but it is different in predict data based on learning attributes, mainly through training data in addition to the three techniques: unsupervised learning, supervised learning, and reinforcement learning. Various types of machine learning techniques such as semi-supervised learning and deep learning algorithms are developed has been used. Clustering. Clustering is a method of data mining by defining a cluster of data considering the characteristics of given data and finding representative points that can represent the data groups. A cluster is a group of data with similar characteristics. If the characteristics of the data are different, they must belong to different clusters. It is the main task of explanatory data mining and a common technique for statistical data analysis, used in many fields including pattern recognition, information retrieval, machine learning, and computer graphics. Maximizing inter-cluster variance, minimizing the inner cluster variance. Note, however, the cluster should be distinguished from the classification. Clustering is unsupervised learning without correct answers. In other words, we group similar objects without group information of each object. Classification, on the other hand, is supervised learning. When you carry out classification tasks, you will learn to predict the dependent variables with independent variable X of the data. Community feasibility assessment. Since clustering tasks are not correct, they cannot be evaluated as indicators, such as simple accuracy as in typical machine learning algorithms. As you can see in the example below, it is not easy to find the optimal number of clusters without the correct answers. Cluster analysis itself is not one specific algorithm, but the general task to be solved. It can be achieved by various algorithms that differ significantly in their understanding of what constitutes a cluster and how to efficiently define them. Popular notion of clusters includes a group with a small distance between cluster members, dense areas of data space. Second, in general, running problems considers a set of samples of data and then tries to predict the properties of unknown data. If each sample is more than a single number of, for instance, a multi-dimensional entry, it is said to have several attributes or features. Supervised learning in which the data comes with additional attributes that we want to predict. This problem can be either classification, sample belongs to two or more classes, and we want to learn from already labeled data on how to predict the classes of unlabeled data. An example of classification problem would be handwritten digit recognition, in which the aim is to assign each input vector to one of finite number of discrete categories. Another way to think of classification is a discrete, as opposed to continuous, form of supervised learning where one has limited number of categories and for each of and samples provided. One if to try to label them with the correct categories of classes. Scikit-learn is a machine learning platform in the middle range of superficial broad Python module. This package high-level language cannot easily high-level documentation and proper API suggested. Use BS3 license and academic or commercially use it. Source code documentation is downloaded from the website. Supervised learning or supervised learning is many problems is inserted in the scikit-learn. Generalized models, linear and quadratic recruitment analysis, kernel rigid regression, support vector machine, stochastic gradient descent model. Solution also inserted in the scikit-learn. Proposed approach. K-means algorithm is one of the clustering methods for divided. Divided is giving the data among the many partitions. For example, received data object and divided data is input data divided K data. Each group consisting of a cluster. Below equation is a K-means algorithm when cluster consists of algorithm using cost function used. In other words, one of the data object divided by the K group currently divided similarity, this similarity with reducing the cost function about it. And from this theory, each of similarity increases. Different group similarity will decrease. K-means algorithm is each centroid and in each group data object times summation. From this function result, the data object group update clustering progressed. How to be where to be clustering in a way is current scalability index, Dave's word index, the index, serial score in this paper, evaluate via current scalability index and serial score evaluated. From the cluster current scalability index SI, the cluster distributed average and cluster distributed ratio will give it to you. For this, BK is the distributed matrix from the each group, WK is a cluster distributed defined. N is the number of data CQ data group in CQ. CQ is a cluster, Q is centroid, C is the ease of the centroid, and Q is the number of data number of cluster Q. Serial score is the easy way to in data each data cluster in data's definition on I. Each data is in a cluster inner and data definition BI. Serial score is equal to calculate that. From this calculate SI is equal to the function. SI is close to 1 is the data, 1 is the correct cluster to each thing. Close to -1 cannot distribute the cluster is distributed. From this we can for machine using the machine learning library, scikit-learn in the household power consumption clustering. Household power consumption from the data set downloaded from the University of California Urban Machine Learning data repository, and then use it. This data is via delimiter is divided. Global active power, global reactive power voltage, global intensity is divided. Global active power and global reactive power, XY axis experimented. Python library is Anaconda 3, K-means algorithm. Key point is using the data, K clusters, reduce cluster distance. K-means algorithms input data, put the labels. Figure 1 is before check current scalability index and serial score execute K-means algorithms result. Figure 1 to figure 11 are A/1 dataset K-means clustering result for household power consumption from urban repository and reduce the dataset A/1 times from original UCI machine learning data repository. After all, reduce each cluster's distance, calculate each cluster current scalability index. Increasing clusters, current scalability index will decrease with the K ratio is to low estimate K this cluster partition with one more or non-electric consumption rate is very important. This one is the most important fact. Equal with the current scalability index estimation, calculate serial score. The cluster will increase, the serial score will decrease with the K distributed or low factor with optimal K represented. From K-means algorithms, calculate the proper clusters is very important. From the data estimate serial score, the result is K-7 each cluster centroid and data prices. Serial score are 0.799 is optimal score. From the former current scalability index result are 560 is the optimal result. Using the K-means algorithm, the fact is figure 11. From the K-means algorithm cluster, each group centroid and each centroid distance will be optimal value. From this result, each centroid can divide it. Household power consumption rate via clustering. Dave's burden index. If the ground truth levels are not known, the Dave's burden index SK run matrix Dave's burden. Then the Dave's burden index is defined as the 0 is the lowest score as possible. Score value closer to 0 indicate a better partition, but the problem is the algorithm does not attach it in the scikit-learn library and only explain it in the document page, but cannot explain it easily. Related work. Machine learning is a sub-project of artificial intelligence that is used to develop algorithms and techniques for enabling the computer to run. It is easy to use to train the computer for various aspects such as distinguish whether emails received are spam or not, data classification application, association rule identification, and character recognition. Machine learning includes a series of processes in which your computer looks up similar patterns, generate a novel classification system, data analytics, and producing meaningful results. It is a kind of artificial intelligence that can be predicted based on the result if it is supported only by analytics algorithms. Machine learning is a step-by-step evolution process that leads from the big data analytics to predict future actions toward making decisions on its own through a path around the result. The key issues for processing a successful prediction model remains to be within increasing the probability and reducing the error, and the said problems are resolved through enabling numbers iterative learnings. At the heart of machine learning are representation and generalization, where expression is an evaluation of data and generalization is a processing of future data. Unsupervised learning is a type of machine learning that is used primarily to determine how data is organized. Unlike supervised learning or reinforcement learning, this method does not give a target value for input values. Autonomous learning is closely related to the density estimation of statistics. This autonomous learning can summarize and describe the main characteristics of the data. An example of autonomous learning is clustering. In this paper, we use k-means clustering algorithm to measure the optimal number of clusters based on the characteristic average index and serial score Davis burden index, and then apply it to household electricity consumption analytics. Summary. From the paper Household Power Consumption via k-means clustering, use a library which is scikit-learn iconda3 open source personally can easily follow it, and because using BSD license to real world don't have difficulties to do that. Not only the k-means algorithm, PC algorithm, but also SVM algorithm, etc. etc. Other machine learning algorithms clusters can also do it. From this result, in real life, household power consumption diverse analytics, and the electricity transformer transmission power management period can estimate it. And each data using electrical consumption, it can be used for progressive extension, regional to regional demand forecasting, maintenance of power plant and facilities can do it. In the gas company, can estimate via k-means algorithms, and also we can estimate the gas consumption rate to via k-means clustering and index. Paper to content. Introduction. Machine learning is analyzing mechanisms that fetches and identifies the matching patterns from existing datasets for newer result formations. This paper discusses comparative analytics related to unsupervised learning algorithms, at which we compare the k-means clustering result with a ratio of half dataset to serial score result. We performed analysis and came to the conclusion that Davis burden index is now working smoothly in the scikit learning. So performed a check analysis for characteristic average index and serial score along with the Davis burden index compared result to each of them, so to learn that when we reduce the dataset to a mentioned proportion, the resultant dataset shows half a score than the traditional dataset score. Related work. Machine learning is a field of artificial intelligence that is used to develop algorithms and techniques that enables computers to run. It is used to train the computer to distinguish whether emails received are spam or not. And there are various applications such as data classification, associated rule identification, and character recognition, which comply the standard machine learning perspective. It includes a series of processes in which a computer finds its own patterns, creates a new classification system, analyzes the data, and produce meaningful results. The successful prediction occurs with increase in probability and decrease in the error issues. Machine learning enables to sort out of issues with various iterative learning. Among them, supervised learning is highly related to summarizing the learning method for reinforcement mechanisms. Clustering is the process of mining the dataset by defining a cluster of data that considers the characteristics of input and finds representative method to point out the data group. In this way, a cluster is a group of relevant data elements with similar characteristics. If the functions are not the same, the ingredients belong to contrast clusters. Clustering is unsupervised learning without accuracy in answers. In the same way, the objects having the same information are grouped together for similar elements. However, the classification is a way related to supervised learning. When you perform classification operation, the system will learn to predict the dependent variable y with the independent variable x of the data. Scikit-learn is the machine learning platform in the middle range of superficial broad Python module. This package, high-level language, can also easily high-level documentation and proper API suggested. Using BSD license and as academic or commercially use it. Source code documentation downloaded from the website. Supervised learning, unsupervised learning is in many programs is inserted in the scikit-learn. Generalized models, linear and quadratic decrement analysis, kernel rigid regressions, supported vector machines, stochastic gradient descent model solution are also inserted in the scikit-learn. Paper 2 methodology. K-means algorithm is one of the clustering methods for divided. Divided is giving data among the many partitions. For example, received data object and divided data is input data divided K. Data each group consisting of cluster. Below equation is a K-means algorithms when cluster consists of algorithms using cost function used. In other words, one of the data objects divided by the K group. Currently, the divided similarity is the similarity with reducing the cost function about it. And from the theory is each object similarity increased. Different group similarities will decrease. K-means algorithms is each centroid and each group data object times summations. From this function result, the data object groups updated clustering progressed. Serial score is the easy way to in data. Each data cluster is in data's definition and each data is not clustered inner and data definition bi. Serial score Si is equal to calculate that.